There it is. Now, all of a sudden, nobody wants to talk anymore. But our guest speaker is here, and I want to be very respectful of our time. So good evening. Welcome to the fourth Tuesday special meetup for Code Connector. For those who haven't been with us before, Code Connector is a tech meetup group. We meet online, we meet in person, as I mentioned prior, and every fourth Tuesday is really, really special because we have either a feature speaker or we do lightning talks. So January, February, March this year, we already have our feature speakers who are coming. But the month of April, if all works well, we are holding out, JC and I are holding out the month of April for lightning talks. I'm not going to go all into it, but all I'm going to say is 5 to 10 minutes, any tech topic that you like, any level, which means even if you're brand new, you're still in 100 devs or free code camp, or you just put up your first EC2 instance and you barely know what it could even do. If you want an opportunity to be able to practice presenting technical information to other people in a safe space, this is the place to do it. So the first one we're going to shoot for is April of this year. If you're at all interested, I hope everybody's interested. I love to have like 20 or 30 of them. Just let me know or let JC know. Here's my name. Here's my topic. My topic is whatever. Advanced AI or basics of HTML. Everything in between is perfectly fine, but we want one safe space where you always can sign up, present your information, get some feedback from people who actually care about you and empathetic and not going to charge you for feedback for a talk, and be able to practice that and get those kinks out, because sometimes we find people come out of boot camps and they've never really had in-depth experience talking tech with another person until they get to the interview. And then it's like this is really, really scary. So you can always come to Code Connector. You can do a feature talk if you want to, but if that's too much for you, definitely sign up for our lightning talks. First one will be in April. But tonight, we are honored to have brother Mr. Demecos Chambers, who is a cloud engineer professional. We're going to just have a chat. So what I want everyone to do, turn on your mics first of all. Turn on your mics real quick. All mics. And let's just give our guest speaker a round of applause. Welcome him in, make him feel comfortable. He's representing his brand. Talk about the brand. He's got the brand right there. He'll probably break out the cigar in a minute. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, sweetheart. It's that splash. But Demecos, glad to have you, man. How you doing?
Legendary yourself. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Great evening. Everybody's looking beautiful and comfy tonight, but nobody has a drink in their hand. So I'm a little worried, but we can rock and roll.
It's just off camera. Okay. It's just off camera. Man, we're going to have a fun time tonight. It's going to keep this conversational. What I'm going to ask everyone to do now, please put yourselves on mute. That way the recording will focus on the speakers, because we're going to put this on our YouTube probably tomorrow. We do have a very tiny YouTube channel, Code Connector. You can see lots of our prior talks. So if you'll go on mute, that'll be super awesome. After Demecos and I have our conversation that may last, I don't know, 15, 30, 45 minutes, somewhere in there, we will open up Q&A. Everyone here is welcome to ask questions at the end. So first things first, again, glad to have you. I'm going to jump right into it, Brother Chambers. How did you get into cloud? Can you give us some of the backstory, what you did before, bring us up to the present?
Oh, man, I was like, speaking of layoffs, I was fired from both Lyft and Uber. I think I was definitely the first person with a GED fired from both Lyft and Uber back in the day. I had to be. I'm claiming it. But so I got fired. I was a bad driver. Just texting on your phone while driving isn't a good idea. And it wasn't a good idea back in 2018, 2017. Got fired. And before I got fired, I actually met this guy. I had met a few persons who were in tech, and they kept telling me, oh yeah, go into I think it was big data was a thing. It was like the hugest thing, big data engineers. And at the time they were paying like $325 plus, especially if you go overseas. And I would hear, research about it, quite cool. But it wasn't until I met this one guy. He's my best friend to this day, my guy Conrad. I picked him up one morning, and I hate talking, especially in the morning. So I always try to, greet the driver and then be as solitude as possible to prevent any further conversation. But this one guy was so persistent in having the conversation early in the morning. So I'm taking on this route, and he's like, yeah, what do you do, whatever. And I was like, yeah. So I hit him with usually when I hit people with like technical aspirations, I say that I'm working on my A+ cert. I'm gonna get the start with the I think that at the time they had the hardware separated first, and then I forgot what the other section was. I think it was probably networking or some sort. But I broke down, yeah, then I'm gonna get a $14 job with GMC, and be a help desk technical person. And I was like, yeah, I had it all set. He was like, okay, you ever thought about the cloud? I was like, the cloud? What are you talking about? He was like, yeah, be a cloud engineer. I'm like, is he high? Like, what are you talking about the cloud? He's like, Amazon Web Services. I was like, Amazon, like the book company. This was when Amazon was known for selling Kindles, and they're selling books. I didn't, and he was like, yeah, he would. And so we had a conversation. He was telling me about, they're paying for a solutions architect around, at the time it was like 84 a year. By the way, I stay in Atlanta. And so that was really good money. And so I was like, yeah, I never heard of it, whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, you should look into it. I was like, well, how do I get it? How do I become a solutions architect or whatever? And he's like, oh yeah, you study and get your certifications and you interview for the job, and you can get in the door. I was like, okay, where do I study? He's like, it was a Linux Academy before it became there's something Academy now. I forget the name of what they've transformed into, but they start off as Linux Academy. And so I went and I said, okay, and I dropped him off, and come to find out he was actually like a data engineer for Verizon at the time. And so dropped him off, went home, did some research, did some Googling, found Linux Academy. Another roadblock was, okay, let me, it's $32 a month for membership. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have $32. I was broke. I was sleeping on my mom's couch broke. I don't know what y'all think about Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, but the money was not what you thought it was. And anyway, but I couldn't afford it. But I had plenty of hustle, and I knew, I said, okay, I can figure it out. So I bartered with him. I said, hey, saying that you needed a ride once, you're probably gonna need a ride every so often, especially to go to work. So what I'll take you, I'll take you, I'll give you a free Uber ride for a week, if you let me use your Linux Code Academy for a month, right? And this is just how, coming in, like, yeah, I'm gonna learn this, get the certification in a month. And he's like, okay, cool, that'll work. Come to find out, he was a strip club connoisseur. All right. And so although I'm thinking I'm taking them to work every morning, it turned out taking them to the club every night, But anyway, long story short, I started studying, and then honestly, due to a lot of procrastination and fear, because I didn't know any cloud engineers in the space at the time, I was trying to look for support groups online. There were no support groups. The only semi-tech groups online, especially on social media at the time, were especially related to AWS, were like Indian-based groups. And I didn't, of course, it was like in the different languages. And so, and then on top of that, they were always selling these products, trying to sell these products off. Anyway, so it was a long haul trying to figure it out, and a lot of procrastination and fear stifled my growth. So it took about really 2 years before I got my first certification. I failed the solutions architect once. And then I went back to the drawing board and said, okay, there has to be a better way of getting in. And so about 2 years later, I went and I said, you know what? I was sleeping on a floor mattress. I had 4 roommates, and they had 5 cats, and my door, I didn't have a doorknob on my room door. So I had to push the laundry basket up against the door to keep the cat from coming in my room when I was at work, because it's cat fur everywhere, and I have a floor bed. So anyway, I said, you know what? I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of not having. I've always been tenacious. I can always figure things out if I just know that there's a way. I said, so I'm going to commit myself to either I'm going to die or get the certification. That was literally my mentality. I'm extreme like that. I was like, I'm literally either going to, and I watched too much Will Smith motivational YouTubes. I said, I'm either going to die or I'm going to get the certification this year. That's how hard I'm going to go. I literally still have screenshots to this day of text messages of friends and and girls and stuff that I would say, they would ask me to hang out with whatever. And I say, no, I'm studying. No, I'm studying. No, I mean, it took me like probably 6 months to get the cloud practitioner cert. And this was when AWS did not have anything fancy on this website. Like their training has dramatically increased to become better to what it is today. But back then it was slideshows and then a voice that was lagging. And if you tried to reset, if you tried to go back a little bit just to, kind of catch a phrase or catch a term or catch a resource, whatever, the whole slide would stop. So you had to start at the beginning and to play it all the way through and catch it the second time. So it was bad. And so then I end up going to just going online. I forgot who was it actually that I used. I used Linux. I used them all. But anyway, I finally passed. I failed the AWS cloud certification 2 times before I passed it the 3rd time. By the way, this is all out of pocket. This is all not knowing if this is really going to work. I'm going off of my bro Rad's advice of you can become a cloud engineer and make good money, and not knowing really anybody. And so I'm like, but it's possible. So anyway, I got the certification, and I kid you not, I got the cert, and maybe a week and a half later, I had my first real interview as a cloud engineer, and probably 4 days after my, I'll tell you what, also in that week interview, so they asked me to interview. I did probably from that Thursday to that Friday, I did 6 interviews. I had to do 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon on my lunch break, quote unquote, and then the 3rd one in the evening at home. And then the next day I repeated the same cycle. And they offered me the job that following Monday. And it was making $60,000 at the time. At the time I was making $14 an hour. So I wasn't even really making 30 a year. So they offered me $60,000 plus a 15% sign-on bonus. Another obstacle was that I had to move and work the job out in North Carolina, in Durham. And I'm here in Atlanta. I said, yeah, I'm coming. I'm gonna figure out how to get there. I don't know how I'm gonna get there. I'll figure it out. And long story short, I found a roommate online, a great brother from DR, spoke great English. I mean, this is Mr. What's that guy who had the Heineken bottles? He does everything, the older guy. You remember the commercial I'm talking about?
The most interesting man in the world?
Yeah, I swear to God, this is the most interesting Dominican in the world. He does everything. I've literally saw with my own eyes. He can fix things on the roof. I saw him mow the lawn. I saw him. He's a tech guy with ATM machines. He builds things. He plays the guitar. He has all these animals. And he can sing, and he has an acting background. It was crazy. Anyway, so I moved. I drove about 8 hours. I packed up everything, let my roommates know, hey, I'm leaving. I cleaned everything, and I packed my car. I stopped by my mom's house, kissed my sisters and my mom, and told her that I'm out. And I drove out there, and in my car, I had a Nissan Altima. It had 317,000 miles on it. So this thing is smoking hot. So I have to pour water in the heater to keep it from, to keep the cool as the coolant to keep the engine cool. And so every so often I had to jug of water, I poured it in there, keep the engine cool. But anyway, drove out there to Durham, man, and I got there too. I was so nervous because I'm like, man, I don't have a technical background like that, and I'm new to all this. I don't know what this cloud stuff really is. I don't even know how to make a folder in a Linux command line, or any of that stuff. So I got there, man. It wasn't as bad, man. I learned a lot on that job. I started graveyard shift. I came in having to work from 12:45 in the morning until 9:15 in the morning. And I just hustled my way in, man. I hustled my way up. And today I work for a medical company now as a cloud solutions architect, with almost 4 years of cloud experience. So that was my journey in a nutshell, man. Nuts and bolts, man.
Wow, that's a lot. There's so many directions I can go. Like, I have some questions I want to ask, but now I got new questions now because that was a lot. Just when you said, oh my gosh, just when you said I have plenty of hustle, I got plenty of hustle. Man, my mind shoots back to the first time I met a young man in this area, Memphis area. Most folks here know named Danny Thompson. And first meeting, right? We're talking about his background, what he's done in his life before. He's done meat packing, and he worked at gas stations, this, that, and the third. He's like, I'm going to do this tech thing. Now, I'm not the smartest guy you're going to ever meet, but I guarantee you will not outwork me. This is like at our first meeting. I'm like, what kind of braggadocious, egotistical? 4 years later, I promise you, he was telling the exact truth. And it is one of his most endearing qualities. And so hearing you and what you went through, I hear a lot of that same thing. And just having that metal counts for so much in this journey when there's darts coming at you and obstacles and blockers and time and family and my little kid and all this stuff. And you just want the tech career that everybody else seems to have. That metal, that hustle.
You learn early, man, that you, especially in this tech journey, I learned you're going to find people who found a way and made a way, and you're going to find people who found excuses and made those excuses their reality. And it's not that those excuses aren't valid. Things happen, life happens to us all, but you have to also find reasons to, even when you have reasons, you're surrounded by reasons not to, and so that's when, and prior to even getting into tech, I did a lot of life coaching. I did that. I did a lot of mentoring. All these were for profit. I'm a big philanthropy and profiteer. I believe in helping people and getting paid for helping people. All right. So, I've always been a hustler, but I've heard there's not a sad story I haven't heard in my life, and I haven't helped people through in my life. And seeing people come from the darkest places, including myself, darkest places, doing Uber and Lyft, a lot of people don't tell you, but it's a dangerous job. You're working at all hours of the day and night. And there were times, man, not only was I sleeping on my mom's couch, that was the luxury part, but there were times where I couldn't afford to go home because I didn't have gas money to get home. And so I would have to, like, near the Atlanta airport, before they put the restrictions, Uber restrictions and stuff, where you had to be in a designated area. There's literally a parking lot of a restaurant. I think it's called Mahoney's or something like that. But anyway, I would sleep in that parking lot in my car at night, because I know my Uber bell would ring like 4 a.m, passengers getting off the plane and wanting a ride far out, into the city or the north side of town, which would give me a significant amount of money that'll give me gas and money in my pocket and put for all this stuff. But there would be junkies tapping on my glass, all type of dope boys, walking around the car, suspicious activity. I don't have the police. I'm traumatized. I don't have the police. I took, fall asleep. The police just come in, flash that bright light into your car. And so it's like, I've been there before. So it's like, I've seen too much and met too many wonderful people who have come from dark places and made a goal of their life for themselves and their family, to be accepting of people who just choose not to find those reasons too. And it's no knock. I understand it. Sometimes you just built for certain things, you aspire for certain things, for different things than others, but it's just when you're built it from the mud and you meet other engineers who are senior engineers who built it from the mud with you from different parts of the country. Yeah, man. Nah. You gotta. It's either you're going to do it or you're going to find reasons not to do it. That's it. So
100% agree. I've seen that over and over and over again. It's interesting from a mentor perspective. We help people getting into tech, and you think about tech as an umbrella term. There's so many different roles, so many different fields. Front-end web development, we get a lot of that. Software engineering, we get a lot of that. We get very few people who say, I want to go into cloud. So since you are a cloud guy, make a pitch for us real quick. What the heck is the cloud? And why should people consider that as an adult, non-CS degree kind of person? Why should they consider cloud?
Right. So for clarity, there was a time where I did try college in my early 20s. Didn't pan out. I didn't obtain any legitimate degrees or anything like that. I have a GED that's legitimate from the state, but I don't have a traditional tech background at all. And the thing about the cloud is, as I describe everyone, it's literally, and I break it down to my girlfriend all the time. She now understands it. it's a company renting out server resources. Companies back in the day, in order to meet the demand of their customers, they will rent out the big servers, and have these server rooms where they would have to kind of estimate user capacity for the month and following month. So they would order servers based off that demand. The problem with it is it wasn't as on demand enough. So you could easily buy too many servers for that month. And then on top of that, you've hired too many employees, or you just have a huge tech department that's also costing you a lot of money. Plus the money, insurance that comes with disaster recovery, having to secure those servers from burning the building down or getting stolen, X, Y, and Z. So what the cloud does is it helps business meet demands immediately. And it basically it's on the technical side, it's just companies renting out servers on an as-need basis within that 10-second need, or even less, 3-second need, depending especially if you're going serverless, versus the traditional on-premise method where you got these, heavy lift and shift servers and all the financial requirements that come with managing those physical workloads. So the cloud basically it's literally just a server that you're able to migrate around the world and have the same access as needed for an application or a website. That's all it literally is. And the prime benefit not only cost optimization, because there are some reports where how cloud has been costing companies more money than on-premise. And that's mostly due to lack of educated engineers about the cloud, lack of skilled professionals on their team who can optimize cloud, which is a whole nother conversation. But it's more so just for increasing client retention, because if a customer goes to your website using Netflix, if you have an on-premise server there in Atlanta and they're going to LA, they want to be able to watch the same movie that they were watching in Atlanta, on their flight, on their phone, on their way to their destination in LA, with the same speed and accessibility. But you have a problem doing that with on-premise servers, meeting that demand. It's just so heavy. It's physical materials. It's costs too much. Versus a cloud, it can just literally, especially due to edge computing, it can travel with them around the world and they can have that same access. So that's truly just the difference between it all. On-premise networks, on-premise, the type of work that you do on-premise is the same type of work you do in the cloud. It's just being able to translate those on-premise services to the cloud services. Security groups, you got your security groups here. Network, you got your VPCs up there. You got your virtual private networks here. Linux servers here, Linux servers up there. X, Y, and Z. Same thing. Is just when you're transitioning to becoming a cloud engineers, trying to learn and figure out what services best pull those computing needs down for the company that eventually leads to the customer satisfaction. In a nutshell.
Nice. Okay, I'm sold. Demecos, I just met you on the street. We're at Starbucks. I'm an adult. I am currently a mechanic, and I want to get into tech, but I don't want to do websites. I want to do cloud. Please answer the following two things. Mm-hmm. Where the heck do I get started, just in terms of learning? And then once I've learned some stuff, right, I reached that mark, how do I make myself competitive? Because I understand it's a very competitive market, lots of layoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So two-part question. Where do I get started if I'm an adult? All right, I'm college is out. I just want to learn this stuff. Where do I get started? And then how do I make myself competitive?
Yeah, and I hope we definitely have a layoff conversation as a part of this. But for starters, you can do it really in 4 steps. One is you need to research, and I have a quiz actually, and Amazon stole my quiz. But anyway, that's another question. You need to research and figure out what type of cloud role you want to take on. I always tell that before everybody tries to jump on certifications, because everybody wants to get the SA certification. That's a senior level certification. You're not going to get a senior level job if you don't have any tech experience. But anyway, you start off, what kind of cloud role do you want? Do you want a technical role, such as a DevOps engineer, such as a cloud networking engineer, such as a cloud security engineer, etc.? Or do you want a non-technical role, such as a cloud salesman, or a cloud sales engineer, or cloud pre-sales engineer? A cloud TAM is even a non-technical role, because you're a liaison between the customer and the client. You're just relaying problems and solutions between the two. If you want to be a tech recruiter, cloud tech recruiter, UXI designer, there's, you can go either way, technical, non-technical. So after you figure out which role in particular you want to pursue, then it's about then go on. The easy route is to go on Indeed, look at the top 10 jobs for that job boards for that role. Look at the requirements for that role as far as certifications. What kind of certifications are they asking for consistently for that role? And write that down. If it's a security role and asking for security plus cert, get your security plus cert. If it's a DevOps role and they're asking for AWS DevOps and you want to work in AWS, okay, well, get your AWS DevOps certification. If it's Azure, you have so many options. That's why it's best to consult with somebody that's actually in the field that can give you a clear route of what you should do. So 1 is figure out what cloud role you want. 2 is to get your certification, get your cloud certification. I advise that you get a specialty certification rather than a general certification, like a fundamentals. Azure fundamentals is like a general, AWS practitioner is a general, and I usually suggest that for people who want non-technical roles, because it gives you the advantage going into those roles and those jobs, because most of those people don't have technical expertise. But so you go in with that technical knowledge. What was I saying? Yeah. So yeah, you get your certs, your certs. After you find out your role, you get your certs. Then most importantly, don't stop there, because that's just not enough just to get a job. It's not just certification and get the job. You have to do real world projects. And you can easily do this by, again, going back to your job boards, top 10 job boards of the role that you're looking for. Look at the objectives of that they're looking for a person to be able to solve, and create a summary of those top 10. You can those objectives into 3 type of problems that you're going to solve. So 10 job boards, look through all their objectives. What are the most 3 that are in common? And you go on and then you Google Udemy or these different course labs or a Pluralsight, whomever, and you find projects that solve those type of problems. And you go do projects that solve those type of problems, literally at home on your own PC. And here's the thing, because you're substituting the lack of real world work experience with work experience based on projects. They're all, you put them on your resume as projects you've completed, and they're all experience. It's all experience. It's all exposure, and you're solving problems, and you're using real technical skill. These aren't just labs and somebody's giving you an answer. No, you're solving real world problems, because here on these job boards, these are the problems y'all having, and I can solve those problems. They all solve the same way. It's just, okay, either how you've done it on a job or you've done it in your project. Now, they don't know if you've done the project on Udemy. They, for all their mind, you could have done the project off a freelance website. You got an actual offer, or you could have done it for a big school project, or whatever. You can mold it any kind of way you want, but that is still work experience. You're still working at the skill. Add that to your resume, and then the 4th one is get your resume professionally updated by a resume writer, professionally done. Preferably someone who has experience helping tech people get jobs and get roles. But a resume writer, have them update your resume as well as your LinkedIn. And I say that because that is literally will make a day and night difference in the and I don't want to say algorithms, but in the visibility that you will have on social media sites like job sites. such as LinkedIn, and then visibility more on job boards such as Indeed, because these professionals know what keyword. And I forget the software that recruiters use to scan through profiles and resumes. But anyway, it'll help your search come up in that search. It'll help your resume come up in that search. And once you get your resume and LinkedIn professionally done, then you start applying specifically for that role, and you rinse and repeat. When you're getting farther ahead in the process, learn from it, and understand that your resume isn't going to get you the job. It's your interview. It's you selling yourself to the potential employer that's going to get you the job. And believe it or not, 20% of the interviewing process is technical. You really only have 1 or 2 technical rounds at most, but you're going to have social rounds because you're going to meet with the recruiter, then you're going to meet with the hiring manager, then they're going to have you in with the supervisor who's going to ask you technical questions. Then they might have you in another round, another look at you for a person who's actually doing the job, the engineer doing the job. And then they're going to have you do the last round with like some sort of director or another supervisor, personality test. They want to make sure that they're bringing on a person who's competent enough to be able to do the work. And then most importantly, a person that's cool to work with. They want to make sure that you're going to get on these calls and not try to be the chief and take over the call and know it all and be competitive. And they want to know that they can trust you as a professional to actually get the work done, because they're not, most good companies aren't going to have a supervisor looking over your shoulder. You're going to be following your own Jira project and completing your work tasks and having to report on the progress of the work that you've made on daily or weekly calls. So that's basically the 5-step process, I would say. Find a role, get your find a role, get your certs, do at least 3 projects. You can do more if you're trigger happy. Get your resume and LinkedIn file updated professionally. And then last but not least, start interviewing. Usually it's a 3-step interview process, and it's usually going to take almost usually going to take you probably between 3 weeks to 4 weeks before you get the actual offering of the role. And that's just due to time constraints of how they schedule the rounds of interviews. But you may run into companies that are thirsty for engineers and want to make a decision that week, which I've had happen. So yeah, that's the process, and that's what I would suggest for anybody. Take my quiz online. It streamlines all of this. It makes it simple for you, but awesome. That's the process.
We're going to get all those resources at the end, and if I don't mention it, be sure to bring that back up, all your contact stuff. But that is a great answer, a fantastic path. At least half of it sounds like exactly what I share when I'm on these spaces and things. So either you're stealing from me or we're eye to eye. That's a good.
No, when you brought it up on my call, yeah, that's why I was excited, for you to keep talking about it, because it's like, usually the truth is the truth, no matter where you are in the world. You got to get the credentials with this paperwork. You have to, especially if you don't have a degree, if you don't have any kind of technical background, you need some type of credentials. And then you have to do those projects. You got to get your hands wet and see what this stuff is and build something and break something and fix something. And these are, and I'm gonna leave this little tad bit, and then we can move on if you want, but employers love hearing heroic stories of people who go in and have done the work on their own, without an employer telling them to do so, or even a school telling them to do so. Even if you did go to school, they want someone who's willing, who's self actualizing, who's not waiting on someone to tell you what to do, but you know what you have to do and you know what needs to be done, and you go figure it out. They love hearing those stories about projects you worked on and problems, bugs you ran into. What was your methodology on solving that problem? So yeah, that's it.
Believe it or not, I've actually had beginners push back on me with the idea of projects and want to argue, like, why do we have to do this? And like, you don't have to do this for these other careers. This is like extra homework, and I'm not in school, and it's on and on. And I say, all that might be true, but understand this point. A personal project, as a technologist, a personal project to an employer is the most reliable, tangible evidence that you can do the job they're hiring you for. There's
Yes.
no more reliable evidence. The degree kind of looks like it. The credentials, the search kind of looks like it. That's a clue. But when you show them the app, the cloud instance, the whatever, the security protocol, whatever you wrote, and you say, here's my thing, that's the best evidence. So
That is
100% on everything you said.
100% fact. Yes, you're absolutely right. Please don't. And everybody wants to just get the cert, especially these big boy certs, and skip the process of not doing the projects. It's like,
Mhm.
dude, you're gonna scare yourself from even applying for the job. Most people don't even apply they don't even apply anyway because they don't feel like they're good enough for the roles. But a lot of that can be curated if you expose yourself to the workload and you see what the actual work is like. Because the hardest part is interviewing. You get into the actual role, you can be like, man, I did all this for that, man. What? You're gonna find out, you're gonna be like, man, like this work is it, and then they're gonna only have you doing one sector of the technology that they're working on. So you're like, I'm doing this all day or this. What? I was tripping. That's what you're gonna say. You're gonna be like, and then what's really gonna pee you off is when you're gonna find out that you know more technically than your superior does. That's really gonna tick you off. You're gonna be like, oh man, I should have done this a long time ago. So that's
Man,
it.
I'm not sure if I shared it on your channel or not, but the trip for me on not day one, because day one of my first day here at FedEx was a picnic, but day two, and I'm going in feeling all less than, I'm a graduate of YouTube University and Udemy and Udacity, and you got all these college grads. I know this guy went to Vanderbilt and he went here. And I walked in on the second day and 3 senior engineers were all taking Udemy classes. I was like, I found my people. We're all on Udemy. We're
The
all on YouTube.
studying doesn't right. The studying
It
doesn't stop, man.
doesn't
That's one thing
stop.
about in this field. People think it's a quick lick. You just get these certs and you're gonna get in the door and you're not gonna have to learn anything. You can just do one tedious task. These people not paying you these lucrative salaries for you to just be ticky tacky, something that they can get their 13-year-old kid to come in the room and do. It's like, no, like you got to be a professional. You have to constantly learn. If you don't like reading, you're not going to like tech. You're going to be reading out documents for hours and days. Like this is a part of the job. It's a part of, that's the thrill in being good at what you're doing as a professional. You want to become proficient. And then your community of tech engineers, especially once you get your first role and you start getting introduced to all these tech groups that's online and on Twitter and in these social media and Discord apps and stuff, you're going to see how good and how cool they are what they're doing and the love they're getting from them. You're going to want some of that. You're going to be like, man, let me figure out what leak code is. You're gonna want to get in the mix, man. So yeah, if you're a lifelong learner, lifelong student, tech is for you. Cloud tech and tech, they're one and the same. Yeah, almost 50% of the companies are hybrid companies anyway, meaning they have on-premise applications as infrastructure as well as cloud infrastructure. And a lot of that is still changing and morphing. Cloud is still early and new, very early and new. So it's a lot of it's a lot of great potential that's going to continue to come out of this. But yeah, go ahead. I'll let you. I don't want to steal your thunder.
You're flowing, man. I don't want to interrupt. I keep putting myself on mute. Like, just go. You're
I'm
good.
so used to talking
Who
to
cares about
myself
my
and my
questions?
students.
Yeah. Bet. Check this out.
I have one question for you, Demecos.
Hey Ryan, if you don't mind, we're going to save the audience questions for the end. I'm almost done though, because I've talked fast.
Okay.
So we're really, really close. I'll come to you first, I promise. But as of right now, Demecos, I'm totally sold. I got the path. I got the plan. Fast forward a little bit. Talk to me. What is your day-to-day life like as a cloud engineer? And I do understand you're in one particular role, kind of some of the things you like, some of the things that are more challenging. And this particular question I keep getting asked, do I have to do coding in cloud? I think it's a trick question.
I think anybody who says, do I have to do this to get to the pot of gold? Yeah, it's not cut out for you. You're not really willing to do what it takes to obtain the goal you want. There's been roles where I've done coding. I think my first cloud engineering role, as a cloud support engineer, I'd probably done the most code line based work, having to SSH into instances and expand expand memory, or have to reset software that stopped running on instances, and just all sorts of things. But no, actually, no, I take that back. My cloud infrastructure job which highlighted a lot of DevOps responsibilities, was the most coding. But the thing about it is like, so to answer both of your questions, one, do you have to code? No, you don't have to. There are non-technical roles. There's sales engineers, there's TAMs. And I get on TAMs a lot because I've had a lot of interactions with TAMs, and I find the TAM role pretty fun.
What is
funny
that? I'm
because
sorry, what is
a
that?
TAM, a technical account manager. They get paid good money, but they're basically responding to emails and putting out fires between the customer and the developers all day, or on call once a week. But they never touch any code. They don't know how to RDP and anything. They don't know anything about a port. They don't, But anyway, and I harp it. Anybody who's not technical, I always crack jokes about them. But there's non-coding roles. But you got to ask yourself, are you willing to do what it takes to become an engineer in this cloud space? If you got to learn some code, it's a part of the role that you want, so be it. You might actually enjoy it. Most people run from it. I was one of the ones that ran from it originally. But you get into it and you find out how convenient it is to make your job. You're like, man, instead of me having to go into the console and click to expand the drive under the boot disk, and I can just go into the command line and it'll take me 5 minutes to do the job. I can go back to playing the video game versus waste 12, 13 minutes per ticket, having to use the console. You're going to, you don't have to do code for a lot of cloud jobs, but just be willing to and be open to learning, especially if code is involved. And you'll be surprised how much you'll actually enjoy learning the process. I just downloaded Windows WSL, Windows. There's a Windows plugin, Windows PowerShell plugin that allows you to customize your terminal. Like my color, I've never thought I would do that in my life. My terminal has different colors and everything, and different fonts. Like, it's so cool. Like, now it's so much easier to read Git pulls that I'm doing and Git merges, different branches. Like, I never thought I would be there. But it's like, you learn, man, you grow. Just grow up. If you don't want to do code, grow up. And then the second part you asked, on a day-to-day basis. So I started off cloud support, handling tickets, which was tedious. And you come in, you're going to do a lot of tedious jobs. You probably don't, that's tedious. You're going to do a lot of sludge work, I call it, in the mud work, building your loins. This is part of your investment into your future. All right. Getting that experience. I will handle tickets on a day, and these tickets will be about anything. It will be about not enough memory on a EC2 server, so expand the disk, okay? Or it would be a user not being able to access a server in a private subnet, so going in and whitelisting their IP address, creating users, creating IAM users, things of that sort. Those will be that's how my job started off as a cloud engineer on the support end. Anytime they would call it day and night, and I'm working, and it's my shift, I'm working to solve the problems. And I'm gonna get to my main point after I say these few things. But then I moved in, highlighting into my cloud infrastructure role, which was highlighted a lot of DevOps. I had to learn about the software development cycle. I had to learn about Terraform. I had to learn about JSON. I had to learn to use JSON coding. So so that's why I would say my job, the higher you climb in tech, especially cloud tech, the less work you do, because it becomes more intellectual work, doing purposeful work rather than busy work. When you're just coming in the door, you're a junior developer, junior DevOps person, or junior or support engineer, or whatever. You're doing a lot of busy work. But as the higher you climb, the more intellectually challenging your work may be. But you've gained enough experience, you can solve it. It's nothing to you. Trying to think of and then on a day-to-day basis, like you're not working every ounce of I'm not working every ounce of the day. There's lots of in between hours of not having something to do. There's always something you can find to do, but on the day and day, I'm working through stories. I'm working through in Jira. It's called stories or called tickets, but I'm solving issues like instead of the customer being the consumer on the front end, the customers are your developers or other parts of the organization. The developers, or there might be persons who take phone calls from customers, complaints, whatever, whoever. Like creating firewalls. I do things like that. Updating firewalls. Like right now, I'm in the midst of starting to build out a Jenkins pipeline from scratch that pulls from Bitbucket that deploys to Google Cloud. So I'm in the midst of creating that, but that's not a all throughout the day task. So I report in. I have like 2 calls a week, and that's about average, 1 to 2 calls a week. You have your check-in calls, and you check in on just the progression of the ticket that you're working. And it's these folks treat you like a professional that you are. This ain't working. You ain't that Dairy Queen no more. Where you got to act busy when a manager walking by or anything like that. They just want you to trust that you are solving a problem, and the problems they're giving to you are value problems. That's another great part about it. You're not just getting something and there's no value to the solution you're providing. And the reason that's key is because you're going to be able to add these things to your resume later on down the road when you're looking for your next role. Oh, I solved this problem. I was able to create a Cron's job for users who are just logging in. I was able to create IM roles for I don't know, and whatever solution that you're providing has value. But I say all that to say the glorious part about all this on a day and day is that you have support, you have help. While you're the only one working on that ticket, the only name on that ticket, you have other engineers you're able to pull advice from and get help from. I can't tell you the amount of times engineers have helped save my job because I didn't know how to do something. And I can't tell you how many times I got stuck with a stale branch on GitHub and not knowing how to pull in the correct master origin. So it's like on a day in, day out basis, you're just figuring out the best way to solve a problem to a ticket. And it could just be one ticket. If you're at a company, again, if you're at a mid-level to up, you're probably solving no more than 3 tickets a week, if that. And usually it's really like between 1 and 2 because these are big tickets and projects that take like a month or 2 or longer. So yeah, that's what you're doing. You're helping putting pieces of a puzzle together to a bigger puzzle later on down the road. And that's all I'm doing. Hopefully that answered your question.
Oh, that's a fantastic answer. And that is so much more real and transparent than what we usually hear. Definitely appreciate you getting us all that information. So you've gotten us on the path, you got us hired, you told us the day-to-day. You hinted at as you grow in your career, it gets more intellectual or more about your thoughts and your designs, is less about the tangible. Can you talk a little more detail about what is a career path on the technical side only? Because I know you're on the tech side for a cloud engineer.
So a cloud engineer, as I described to everybody, it's an umbrella term. You can be there's different type of roles within cloud engineering. As I mentioned before, it's broken down into these things. You have to have somebody that builds things in the cloud. You have to have somebody that maintains what's built in the cloud. You have to have somebody that protects what's in the cloud. You have to have somebody that sells cloud services, and you have to have somebody that decoms resources in the cloud. Those are all very different. Those are different types of function that create varied amount of roles. Cloud is still very new, so the roles are still fleshing out and they look different all over the place, but they're usually consistent in key areas like cloud DevOps engineer or cloud solutions architects or cloud network engineers. There, it's all components of the cloud. Again, the cloud is nothing but a mirrored image of what's on-prem, just in the cloud. Like rent this rental spaces of that these companies really just monopolize the market on servers. They say, hey, it's better that you rent our servers from us at a cheaper price that are also that are performing better than the servers that you got on premise. It's going to cost you less down the road, but give you more performance upside. But a cloud engineer is you can be in any type. You could there's on my website is like 12, and I keep plugging my website, but I'm not plugging on purpose. But I'm just saying, like, I've kind of made these things simple to understand because it can be complex when you go out there in Google world. But they really fit into like 12 unique roles. Got your cloud product manager, got your cloud security engineer, you got your cloud. I said network, I said solutions, I said DevOps, yes, UX design, cloud UX designer, UXI designer. I mean, they vary. You just, you can go on Google and type in cloud engineering roles, and you're going to see a plethora of cloud related roles pop up because the industry is still new. Companies are still, only half of companies are in the cloud. So they're still generating with these, there's no standardized agency yet of how cloud roles are to be specified. There's even cloud finance people. I think it's called cloud principal accountant or something like that. But they're responsible for the sales margins on how a company is utilizing cloud services, making sure that they're not going over budget and making sure that they're using the most out of the budget that they're allotted. So, yeah, I mean, you can, I kind of even got lost with your question.
Just some of the career paths.
Yeah.
Those
Those are the career paths. So there's 12 definite ones. But you can go online, you can literally type in cloud engineer roles or cloud tech roles, and a plethora of them will pop up. Pick your flavor. If you've been doing networking so far, your background, become a cloud network engineer. Same principles apply. Same thing for your developer, software engineer, software developer. Same thing applies. You can become a cloud admin if you've been a system administrator. It's the same thing. Just throw cloud in front of whatever it is that's originally in tech. And that's literally what you have. It's just understanding how to utilize cloud services to support that skill that you're doing to contribute to a company's cloud infrastructure. That's really it.
That is super clear and good to know. Thank you for that. Demeko, you've done an incredible thing, just transforming your life from Uber driver, Lyft driver, sleeping in the car in mom's house to where you are now. That's a huge step, but you didn't stop there. Obviously, based on your shirt, we see you've gone on social media and you're putting the message out and you're starting a whole community. So take a few minutes, just talk about your organization and the importance of community in a person's tech life or tech career.
Yeah, so I started Beat Cloud Engineers, which is my private Facebook group, because there were no cloud support engineer groups out there. And I was like, man, I really wish I could show you some help and guidance right now. I literally have this one post from 2018 when I'm in this Indian group that's titled AWS and a whole bunch of other abbreviations. And I'm like, hey, what do I do if, once I get my AWS practitioner cert? Like, it's so funny. And this one guy says, contact me when you get it, And so, engineers, I created a group as a support group to help people, especially people that are from the Black community, but we have everybody in there. Because the Black community is only 3.7% of tech employees, and we're 12% of the population, and 86% of us utilize mobile devices, but only 3.7% of our population is in tech. And it's not necessarily because of racial biases of us not getting the opportunity to take on roles and get interviews, but most of us just aren't even applying ourselves to get qualified. by getting the certifications, doing the projects, and actually applying for positions. So yeah, the support group is there for all folks. Yeah, I created a community, about 1,600 of us, and on a weekly basis, we're giving out resources. We have everything from my blueprints that I've developed to we bring in other industry experts, such as Lawrence, as yourself, where we have Black Tech Heroes every month come in and talk and give them Q&A advice similar to what we're doing here, as well as tons of just resources. I mean, we talk about what AWS is doing as far as their free training certs that have come out. Same thing with Azure. We have nice conversation about which cloud is the best, and it's just a whole playground for a healthy learning environment. There's no judgment there. We do a great job administering that folks aren't bullying other people or making other people feel small. We really cater to a community of those people who don't know anything about tech, but they have a lot of ambition and aspirations to change their families' lives through tech. And they just need guidance along the way. So it's real ABC type material we post there. I'm also on TikTok, Be Cloud Engineers, and YouTube, of course, Be Cloud Engineers. But we're here to help people be cloud engineers. That's it. That's really simple. As far as what it is. BeCloudEngineers.com. That's really it.
Love that. And you kind of hit my last question. I want to make sure I got the full list of everywhere people can follow you, catch your content and advice. So you mentioned TikTok, Be Cloud Engineers, YouTube, Be Cloud Engineers, and is the website just BeCloudEngineers.com?
That's correct. BeCloudEngineers.com. Don't forget the S, please. That's it.
Awesome. Man, I am so happy that you made it tonight. I'm going to turn you over to our very happy guest, starting with Ryan, because I put him off earlier. Sorry about that, Ryan. It's your turn, and just one at a time, we'll just kind of popcorn around. So Ryan, jump in there with your question, man. Thanks for being so patient.
Hey, yeah, thanks. So I was wondering, like what certification from AWS you might have gotten. I'm looking at a page here for programming certifications, and they've got 2 different ones listed. I don't know if that's all the ones that they offer, but they've got this developer associate, and then they got the solutions architect associate. And I mean, do you recommend one of them over another?
Yeah. So, and by the way, here's a cool thing about especially cloud tech. You're gonna meet people from all types of background. I mean, construction workers, men who used to work on train tracks, men who used to bug hunters. It's so interesting, man. But to answer your question, if you're going, I always say specialize. So I will always prefer that, especially if you've already done code line work and you're interested in doing coding or scripting, and you have some type of knowledge in that area, and you're interested in going that, if you're a developer or you wanted to become a developer or you software design, go get the special DevOps associate is a specialty certification. Go get the specialty certification rather than the general solutions architects. Again, solution architects are seen, and I didn't know this until I got into the industry myself, because I did like everyone else. I went and got the solutions architect because AWS promoted it the most, and it was actually one of I want to say AWS. I want to say it was their first certification that they made available to the public. So that is kind of like this legacy certification that everybody learns about cloud, learns about the salaries, learns about the lifestyle. Say, okay, I'm gonna go get a solutions architect. And what's funny is that during my years of when I started interviewing for cloud jobs, my first year, I ran into this one Indian woman. And you're gonna work with a lot of Indians, by the way, and they're great people and shrewd engineers. They know their stuff, man. So get ready for that. But they're fun people, man. She gave me some great game, man. She said, and I thought she was kind of, pouring rain on my parade. During the interview, she was like, I was like, yeah, I'm working on my cloud solutions architect certification. She was like, why are you working on your solution? Why are you getting that degree? That is nothing but a talk certification. You shouldn't get that talk certification. You should go get DevOps. I was like, huh? What? I was like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Right? But she was right. She was right. I would have got in a lot quicker. I would have, had a lot more upside. I would have had a lot more foundational skills, technically, had I just got the DevOps cert. That's the thing about these certifications, especially with AWS. These aren't just textbook certifications. These certification courses have gotten really good at teaching you actual skills to supplement the actual certification itself. You're getting real world projects in your learning journey on these courses through AWS, through Udemy. Shout out to Stefan Marique. Everybody should probably be familiar with his face, but he's one of the fathers of Udemy cert teaching, but in AWS. But these certs, especially DevOps, it's going to train you on. You're going to learn about, again, software development process. You're going to learn about you're going to learn about different Git commands. You're going to learn about different the AWS CLI. You're going to learn about versioning tools. Like these things have become really advanced in teaching you real skills. It's not just paperwork that hey, let me learn these terms. There are no terms in those certification tests. There are no what's this term mean? No. What's the best cloud service to solve this real world problem that this company is having? What's the best region to launch these instances in based on this company's geographic area or their customer? Like this is, so you're going to learn real skills. But so I like to say DevOps. Don't go solutions. Only time I say get solutions architect professional is if you're ready to become a consultant in the cloud space, and that's either as for an employee. If it's for an employee, get that solutions architect professional. Or the Google solutions architect professional, any architect professional that's a professional tier. Or if you want to start your own company and do consulting, cloud consulting that way. So hopefully that answers your questions, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right. That was super thorough. Who else has some questions for our guest tonight? I dropped as many of the links I could pull up down in the chat for anyone looking for the website, the YouTube, etc. is down in the chat.
Yeah, don't be shy. I don't bite, man.
Yeah. Watch a video, drop them some likes.
I bite my girlfriend. That's the only thing.
While they're thinking of their next one, what's the future hold for Demecos Chambers in tech? What's it looking like? 5-year, 10-year, long term?
That's a good question. My dream job was to become a cloud solutions architect. That was crazy. I'm still kind of in awe that I've actually obtained this position. And in the time that I obtained it, I didn't think I would get it this early. But from here, I actually want to go into government. I want to work for government as a solutions architect. I want to get that security clearance. That's a goal of mine, man. That security clearance is like gold in the tech industry, especially if you have your Azure certs. Oh my gosh, that security clearance is golden, man. But yeah, that's what I eventually want to do. I want to continue to be a solutions architect for the next 5 years, and then drop out of the corporate space from an employee perspective, and strictly only either work contracts with companies, as well as do consulting for small nations, governments, and cities across the world, and helping them convert them to the cloud environment. So that's ultimately how I want to live out my life. 6 months working, doing cloud consulting work, and the other 6 months all being able to raise my family and take care of my family. That's really it.
That's what's up. Did I ever drop the name Tamika Reed to you for Women in Linux?
No, you haven't.
Okay, you need that name because she is, among other things, all over the security clearances, the government contracts, the military. She's all over that. So Tamika Reed, Tameika, last name Reed. She founded an organization called Women in Linux, but I put people on to her for a variety of reasons. Very smart young lady. If you're thinking about going cloud, obviously follow Demecos, also follow her. But if you're also interested in how to invest in tech companies based on their availability of having jobs, she has a whole analysis on that where you could look at job listings as a cue to where to invest. And you can look at stock performance as a cue to where future jobs will be.
Oh, she's sharp.
Like
She's
looking
sharp.
at, are they going to build this component, but it needs these suppliers, and these suppliers aren't scaled up in terms of
She is
personnel.
sharp.
So apply there now. But she's all over the
She's
government contracts. So Tamika Reed,
She's
look
right.
her up.
And she's sharp. Oh, she's
yeah.
smart. Okay, she's sharp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Windows Linux.
I'm curious to your crowd. Like, what are their biggest concerns or fears that they're dealing with right now regarding their tech journey? I'm anybody in the audience, if you want to answer, that's fine. I'm just curious.
Great question. Any concerns about your tech journey?
Because
For me,
Yeah.
or is it something we're supposed to go ahead and answer?
Jump in there. It's a
Okay.
community. We're just at the
Okay.
table chatting.
Well, for me personally, hi, I'm Nika. For me personally, I think it's that I don't have a background in tech. I actually have a background in healthcare. I used to be a nurse. And so um I do have my AWS certified practitioner,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to become a software engineer, developer, and just the fact that there's so much I just don't know. I'm still so green, and it's almost like, why would anybody kind of take a chance on me? And so it's kind of like, how do I prove that I'm worth taking a chance, but at the same time spend like 30 years doing it, right? So
That's such a beautiful statement you just made, because that's exactly how companies capitalize off us accepting any offer they throw at us. Because we're like, man, we'd be grateful to take any job opportunity in tech, just to get our foot in the door or just to build our experience within a role. You are enough. I want to tell you that. Being on this call makes you enough and separates you from most people, because they're not spending their Tuesday night on a tech call with a guy with a light blue t-shirt and my Memphis man over here who used to work at Dairy Queen, talking about our tech futures. This is what it takes to these are the type of things that's going to add character to your journey once you get in the door and make you more grateful for the opportunities that you have and take it more seriously once you get in the door. These companies take chances all the time. They're always trying to upskill their employees. They do more marketing trying to get their employees to upskill more than they probably should, because it's just most people are just afraid of tech. From a engineering side. What you would have to do specifically software development, again, if do you have any government background? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't have a security clearance. I mean, I used to, but that was a
Uh,
long time ago.
no.
No, I used to be in the Air Force. I'm a military spouse right now. My husband's
Beautiful.
active duty Air Force.
So, and here's why I say that, because when newbies come to me, or freshers, as some say in the industry, come to me, and they have military background, I always point them the route of getting Azure certs. And it's because Azure has such a grip lock on a lot of the federal and state agency contracts that many companies don't, they favor those who are ex-military or currently in the military. It's just an easier climb for them versus the AWS. AWS is more private sector companies. Azure is definitely more federal, state level government companies. And Google is kind of like the new startup, as well as legacy companies. It's been around a long time because it's easier to use. And for you, I think Azure has a DevOps certification or DevOps like certification. I've never referenced anyone to Azure's DevOps. It's always been either AWS DevOps or Google Cloud Engineering cert. But I would tell you to look into Azure DevOps certification, especially utilizing your healthcare background, because healthcare IT is huge, especially in the cloud sector. Your background will work. You just literally have to just, I would say, apply those things I mentioned earlier, get the certs required for the job, the cloud certs, and then do the 3 labs, and then get your stuff updated professionally. And you should start applying for those roles. You'll be surprised what you're qualified for if you just try it. You know, I tell you all one quick story. I most recently, back in December, no, this was in November, I got offered, this is gonna be wild. I got offered a recruiter contacted me for a cloud database architect position. And I hadn't even been a solutions architect. So I was like, and I wasn't a database guy. Was just learning SQL queries. So I was like, you know, I wasn't, but you know, I'm smoking them in the interview. I'm showcasing what I do know. I'm highlighting that. And so weird thing happened. So he scheduled another call with his manager recruiter. We talked. They both love me. They said, okay, we want to bring you on to to present this role to the federal government, and we're going to pay you for it. I was like, what? What you mean? So they conjured up this offer letter that was contingent based on them getting the contract with the federal government, and this was all a Azure-based cloud. I have some of the Azure background, so and they was like, we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you to study with we have a group of other engineers, probably a total of 6 of us. We're going to pay you every day to study together and practice together. And then we're going to pay you the day of doing the presentation for the federal government. No kidding. And we practiced, and they wrote the script. I had to make minor adjustments using my knowledge to make sure things were accurate. But they literally gave me this big script and there's images and everything to study for. And we practiced for 2 hours a day, and they paid us $200 an hour to do this practice. And we all sit on a Zoom call like this, and they gave me an official company email and everything. And we did it for like 5 days of practicing. And then we did the actual call with the federal government, which is weird, crazy to me, because you literally go when you're bidding on a contract and it's time to present your company or whatever to the government. They literally you meet in this little one Zoom room. It's like this private federalized Zoom room, and there's one assistant. You see like a secretary of some sort, and she says, "Okay, you all ready? Blah blah blah." You go through your prerequisites, cool. And then she said, and then so the call goes live, and in our scenario, there was about a panel of 8, but you don't see their faces. All the screens are black. And then she introduces us, and her ending statement is, such and such company, introducing you to the federal government. And so we go through our spiels of everybody going through our scripts. Introducing myself, I introduce what this company's function of their database could be able to, their Azure database, how it could benefit the company, whatever have you. And ended the call, and it probably took us a total of 2 hours, 2-hour call. And then they ask you questions. That was the part I was really nervous about, because I'm like, I'm not a database guy, and I'm not a database architect at that, but oh well. And I answered the questions. Everything went smooth, and it went go smooth. They didn't end up getting the contract because they were going up against some of the big boys. I forgot their name. Deloitte was one of the competitors. And but they Zelled me the money the next day. They sent me all the money and so I say all that to say, I would have never thought I was qualified to be some database Azure architect, cloud database architect. But I tried, the opportunity came my way and I went for it, and I did that because being in the field, I've worked with so many other engineers who didn't have the technical prowessness of me, or the skill as me, or the knowledge of cloud services as me. But in higher positions, I've always that imprinted in me that you got to go for it. Like sometimes you're going to find yourself in rooms and in spaces where you're overqualified. And sometimes you're going to find yourself in rooms with people that are smarter than you. But the most important fact is that you're in the room. You know, these companies, they're going to hire you. They're going to see more of you than you see yourself. You know, so, but especially in healthcare, you got so much opportunity in there. I would definitely go for the gusto in healthcare, any cloud job in healthcare related to DevOps, software development. Like, they always need help, and they always need engineers, and they're always paying good money, and they have good security in those healthcare jobs. So yeah, I'm sorry to go on that little tangent, but
that was good, super good. We are at 7:56 Central Time. I want to take up to 2 more questions, and then definitely respect Demecos' time so he can get to his family, his drink, his cigar, whatever else he wants to do.
Sir, you already know.
I normally don't do this because this is my friend, so I'm gonna do it. We do have one question in the chat from JC. One thing that you should not do that could hinder your career, that could hinder you getting started in tech or getting into cloud. What's something you should not do?
Do not. I got this question the other day from a guy that I'm mentoring. Do not lie on your resume. If you haven't touched it, if you haven't worked at a place, don't put on your resume. Don't exaggerate your years of experience. Now, if you started and you touched your first project, like for instance, when I got on board, there was this girl who had this very popular blog, and she had her website hosted on AWS, and she made a post about, hey, could somebody help me with my website that's hosted in AWS? And I was like, well, I'm studying for my cloud solutions architect certification. This is before I failed the first one, but I can help you. And I helped her. I helped her with her website. I forgot even what I did for her. I think I just extended the ITL on her website or something like that, and removed unnecessary EC2s that she had running. But I helped her, and I saved her some money. And I did that in 2018. For that month, I put that on my resume. That's literally a date on my resume, because it's a project, it's something I worked on, and I touched it and I solved a real problem. And if you ask me in an interview, I could speak to what I did. So your resume you need to be able to speak to everything that's on your resume, back up everything you have on your resume. Now, you might not know it all the way to a T. You might not know Kubernetes all the way to a T. You might not know the different flavors of a Linux, of Linux enterprises, but you've touched Linux, you've done Linux before, you've touched Kubernetes before, you've touched a container before, you've done whatever. If you've touched it, if you've worked with it, if you know about it, all join it together and it's on your resume, fine. And you can speak to it, you're good. But don't throw anything on your resume you're not gonna be able to speak to, because you're gonna get exposed real quick in these interviews by these engineers, especially when the technical round. Because they're not going, for the most cases, I've only had 1 or 2, like, really, they just violated me on the calls type interviews, because I wasn't they have enough technical skill. But for the most part, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to disrespect you, say, oh, you're a loser. Who told you to get into tech? You need to go back to Dairy Queen. They're not going to tell you anything like that. They're just going to move on. Okay. All right. Well, I ask you the next question. And then you're going to run into those interviewers who are going to give you advice. Man, I can't tell you. I've done hundreds of interviews, but I've had some adventures on these interviews. You meet people, I've made lifelong friendships and found other mentors on interviews. But you don't know, and I wouldn't have experienced these things if I didn't try. You have to, I always tell people, the biggest thing when it comes to managing your tech career is managing yourself. That's going to be the biggest part, is managing yourself, managing your fears, being patient, and being disciplined. Yep.
Nice. Appreciate that very much.
You're going to break something today. You're going to break something. It's bound to happen. Okay. So don't trip. You can make mistakes. Most companies and most teams are forgiving of you making mistakes. As long as you learn from it, you're fine. I've broken pride. I remember one time I had I can say it now, but we had a big client, McDonald's, and they had they had a server in a region, specific region, I won't say, but I blacklisted the 000 the default IP. I didn't know what I was really doing. I thought I was, whitelisting it. I didn't know the difference between whitelist and blacklist, but I was learning on the job, and I blacklisted the default IP, man. And man, the prod server went down. It was down for like 30 minutes, man. Oh yeah, I was famous that day. But I learned from it and I bounced back and recovered. So yeah, those you will, make mistakes technically, but just don't make confetti what's confetti money? Don't make those type of mistakes on your resume. Don't lie about what you did and who you are and stuff like that. What you have.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah. Big difference between whitelisting and blacklisting. We can talk about that offline if you like. One final question, anyone? I think John has one in comment. John, if you want to verbalize your question.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap
Thanks
it
for the
up.
talk and everything. Also, I found you guys through Meetup, and like thanks for this opportunity and stuff like that. So a little background with me. I just recently came back from Japan. I've been working as a dev for full stack about 2 years-ish. And I've been applying to jobs in like the Georgia region. And I've been applying for like the last 3 weeks and been getting so much rejection letters and emails and stuff like that. So maybe more of a specific thing. And then I don't know, we can start with the specific, then more general question. One is that like, do you have any, and maybe I think it has to do with my resume, something like that. And you said there was like a mention about like a tech resume reviewer or something like that you can recommend. That would be great.
Yeah, and here's why you're not going to be the master of everything.
Yeah.
Right? Go get somebody who's a master at creating resumes and updating LinkedIn. I say it's two things. If you're applying for jobs and you're not getting responses, if you're applying for jobs and you're not even getting interviewed by the recruiters or the hiring managers, you have a resume problem. If you're not being contacted by recruiters or hiring managers via LinkedIn or via email, via phone call, my phone gets blown up every day. If you're not getting contacted, that means you have a LinkedIn problem. You're not positioning yourself online, and a resume problem, because you're not positioning yourself online to be picked up by their algorithms that you're available for work. So if you're not even getting in the door for interviews, you have a resume problem. Now, if you're getting all the way to the last round with the hiring manager and you're still not, I'll say this: if you're not getting to the technical rounds, you're getting calls, but you're not getting to the technical rounds, you have an interviewing problem. You need to learn how to become a better interviewer. You get into the technical rounds, you're not passing technical rounds, work on your technical skills. And then lastly, if you're getting to the final rounds, but you're not getting these job offers, then you're likely not applying for the right type you're not going after the right type of roles. All right. So that's literally what it is. And I say that from experience, I say that from research. That's just literally, that's the fix to those problems. So you and that's the thing that's why it's so important and critical to talk in spaces with those of us who are in the field, because you're able to kind of see the future right now, and get that bird's eye view of what's really going on in the battlefield. So you might actually really be way more qualified than you believe. Just like I was telling the young lady, Nika, like you're more qualified, trust me, than you believe. And y'all, trust me, y'all gonna get in the industry and y'all are gonna find out, y'all gonna be like, he really doesn't know how to ping an IP address. You're gonna be like, wow, and he's my manager. You think I'm joking, but it's so serious. You're gonna run into that, especially directors. But anyway, you're more capable than what you are. But I get it. Rejection can make you feel like you're not good enough, and I have hundreds, probably nearly 1,000 rejection emails. So I feel you. I know exactly what you're dealing with.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Oh no, it was just like when you expand upon like just like the resume and just like focusing, that might be the issue at hand, then yeah, that was like the more general question for that. So time to look
Oh,
for a tech reviewer.
no problem.
Yeah,
Those
thanks a
fixes,
lot.
no problem, man. No problem. Those fixes again. I'm gonna say if you aren't getting hit by recruiters, for starters, if you're not getting hit by recruiters via email, via social media, via phone call, via text message, even, you have a problem with your LinkedIn profile. You're not and your resume. You're not putting yourself in a position to be seen. If you aren't getting if you're applying for roles and you aren't getting callbacks, then you have a resume problem. If you're not getting callbacks, all right. If you are applying for roles and you're getting interviewed, but you're not getting beyond the technical round, if you're not getting to the technical round, then you have an interview problem. You know, you don't interview well yet. You know, you need to be trained up and coached on how to interview well. If you get to the technical round, but you don't get past the technical round, you have a technical problem. You need to get some more technical skills under your belt so you can answer these questions. And the questions are going to become common. You're going to find common technical questions and be able to go back to the lab, you know, and work on creating answers for those questions. And then last but not least, if you're getting to the final round with the supervisor or the CEO or the director, whomever, and you're not getting the job offer, if you get into the final round, but you're not getting job offers, then you're likely applying for the wrong type of roles.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
That's really good. Just to corroborate what Demecos said, and word of encouragement for John and Nika and anyone else in that position, the vast majority of folks that I've mentored who are in a tech transition, they feel like they have the requisite skills, but the job's just not coming. I'm telling you, the vast majority of them are just one step away from opening up the door to everything. Like there's it feels like all hope is lost. Like nothing's working, I'm applying, nobody wants me. But if you've got the requisite skills, most often I can even use, JC, can I use you? I remember when JC was back at applying stage, and JC is the man. Like he was a TA, a teacher assistant in the boot camp when I was a student. He's the man. And doesn't have the job. And I'm telling you, he focused on one thing after just like months of frustration. I believe it was working on interviewing and communication skills. And it was nearly like that. Job opened up in a very launch code days. You already know it, Marcus, launch code days. And it was nearly like that he landed where he is now, St. Jude and all. So
That's
don't give up. Don't have despair. Find out
don't only apply for tech.
One thing.
Don't only apply for tech companies. Lunchables hires engineers as well. Everybody that has a website or application, they need engineers to work. So
Kroger, Home Depot, they all hire devs.
Yeah, man. Wendy's, yeah,
Yep.
Dairy Queen.
Hey, Chick-fil-A has a really nice office in Atlanta, and they hire devs too. Listen, I need everyone to turn on your mic real quick. We're gonna wrap this thing up. Every person here, hit that button. I see way too much red. Hit that button. And the same way we welcome them, we want to give them a big thank you. Let's clap it up for my man, Demecos. I'm the B Quad engineer. B stands for black. Anyway, glad to have you, man. This has been a pleasure. Hope you come back around, hang out with us, chill out with us. Hope you all go to check his platforms out, the website, the TikTok, the YouTube, and just connect. Not necessarily, as I was saying on Twitter earlier, not just to go in for the ask, like, hey, y'all hiring, but to see who can you connect with that in the future, maybe they can offer something to you, maybe you can offer something to them. It's best with it's an exchange. So thanks for all the information. All works well. We'll have this on our YouTube channel by midday tomorrow. And for future reference, our next meetup will be, I think it's in February. Yep, February 4th, Saturday. 2 Saturdays from now, February 4th at 12 Central, we'll have our code and share meetup. I love all of our meetups, but I love that one because any code that you've written and you just want to share it with somebody, bring it. It could be a full-fledged startup or just, well, I learned how to make a body tag in HTML this morning. Come talk about that. We want you to have a place where you can share. It's not a lightning talk, but just to be able to share code with somebody. Because sometimes you're married to people you try to share and they're like, oh, that's nice. Like, wait a minute, working on this for 4 months. That's all I get. You want to relate to somebody that I can kind of get it. This is the place. So any code you have, if you have friends who are little coders and hackers on the side, and they want to just share their cool thing, with people who appreciate it, here is the place. Always the first Saturday, 12 noon Central. JC, did I leave anything out? Eric, did I leave anything out? Justin, did I leave anything out? All
Hey,
right.
I threw that meetup link in the chat, so you can go ahead and sign up now.
Thank you, my man. He's always on it. He's a beast. Hey, y'all have a great night. This has been a lot of fun for me. Demecos, again, I appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time.